Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. Some call it the Dark Souls of JRPGs. Others call it Pokemon for insane people. But one thing that can't be denied is it redefined the way Atlus approached game design. What were once simple 2D dungeon crawlers with RPG elements, and whatever Persona 1 and 2 were, are now 3D turn-based RPGs with intricate environments that complement the already complex stories. Nocturne is also infamous for its grueling difficulty and replayable nature when it comes to challenge runs. So today, I want to put both to the test as I try to beat Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne with Only the Fiends. The Fiends were introduced in the North American version of Nocturne, and are challenging bosses who gatekeep the Labyrinth of Amala, the optional dungeon needed for the true demon ending. Once you defeat the Fiends, you can later fuse them through very specific means, and they are by far the best demons in the game. To test if that holds true, I want to see if Nocturne is fully beatable while only using them. But first, some ground rules. First, I am only allowed to use the main character Demi-Fiend and any demon of the Fiend race in combat. I am, however, allowed to recruit other demons for the use of fusing the Fiends, field skills like Estoma and Liftoma, and external healing for after fights if that applies. Essentially, as long as they are not used in combat, they're totally fine. Additionally, the first Fiend can't be fused until Demi-Fiend hits level 30, so this will actually be a solo run until Demi-Fiend reaches that level. The run will be done on normal difficulty because I'm not that insane, guys. But don't worry, as the run will be plenty difficult as it is. The DLC zones and merciful difficulty are allowed to speed up grinding. However, Demi-Fiend's level must be at least 5 levels below that of the next Fiend. So since the first Fiend is level 30, Demi-Fiend's level cannot exceed 25. Lastly, I will be going for the true demon ending, and will be getting every Magatama. With that said, my name is Jaffinator, and welcome to the madness of Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. The game starts with some rando going off about the world ending, and we get to name our character. Being the simp that I am, I choose to name him Fig Ion. The game also lets me name this person for some reason, who is actually our teacher. I choose to name her Kasumi Yoshizawa because they share the same voice actress. On our way to the hospital to meet Miss Yoshizawa, we get called by our two friends, who we also get to name. I named the girl Mitsuru Kurijo because I accidentally mixed up the voice actress and I am so sorry. And I keep Isamu as just Isamu because he doesn't deserve better. When we get there, it seems to be abandoned, but after a bit we head down to the basement and meet Hikawa, or as every other challenge runner calls him, Vegeta, who tries to kill us. But Kasumi stops him and we stand on the roof as the world ends. The giant disco ball in the sky tells us we're stupid and to come back when we're a true gamer. Okay, rude. But fortunately there's a child named Luis A. Fair who wants to help us with that. He gives us a bug to eat and we're transformed into the Demi-Fig, the future king of chaos. And our goal now is to escape this hospital and reshape the world. Easier said than done though, as Nocturne is not a normal game with a normal tutorial area. We're first teleported to the end of the game where we almost die, but since we're playing on normal, we don't actually. We recruit a Pixie who we immediately put on the bench for healing duty, and also recruit a Kodama and Shikigami. A Preda also decides to join us, which... ew! Can I even show that? After one embarrassing death later, we reach level 5 and charge headlong into the first boss, Fornius. And it's here where we get a good demonstration of the combat system that will go on to define future Atlus games. The press turn system. By hitting an enemy's weakness, or landing a critical hit off physical attacks, we can gain an additional action that we can use to heal, buff, debuff, or pile on additional damage. What makes this system special is that enemies also abide by the same rules, and can exploit our weaknesses just as much as we can exploit theirs. So it's important to make sure that you're fully prepared for a fight, and ensure that enemies can't take advantage of your weaknesses. Fortunately, right now we have none that Fornius can exploit, as he mostly goes for ice moves. This is also where I can show off what is unironically one of the most overpowered skills in the game, your basic attack. Costing no HP or MP to use, it's surprisingly effective in combat, and can later be augmented with skills like Bright Might, Dark Might, and Drain Attack. Since Fornius is an idiot who only uses his basic attack once, we punch the fish until he's sushi and obtain the Magatama Wadatsumi. That's another thing. Magatama is the name of the bug we ingested at the beginning, and it's what determines our resistances and weaknesses, in addition to bonus stat points and skills we can learn. Up until this point, we had Marogare, which gave us normal resistances, but ingesting Wadatsumi gives us immunity to ice attacks, but a weakness to electric attacks like Zio. Now that we've beaten Fornius, we can go outside into the world and get a glimpse of the best character in the game. Dante from The Devil May Cry. Wait, you're not Dante. Yeah, so there's actually two versions of the game you can play in the HD remaster. The original Western Maniacs release of Nocturne as DLC, which includes Dante from Capcom's Devil May Cry series as an additional Fiend boss, and the default, which is based off the Maniacs Chronicle version previously only available in Japan. This version swaps Dante with Devil Summoner protagonist Raito Kuzunoha the 14th. I totally meant to pick Dante because who wouldn't, but my brain went into autopilot and accidentally selected Chronicle, meaning we're stuck with Raito. While this doesn't seem like a big deal, as Dante and Raito are both identical in gameplay and story, there's one change where, if it applies to normal mode, will make me pay dearly for my stupidity. We head to Yoyogi Park where we part ways with our dear Pixie.
Psych!
Yeah, no, I'm just messing with you. Of course I'd never leave her behind. This is because if you keep your Pixie with you for the entire game, you're rewarded greatly for it. Following that, we go to Shibuya where... Yup, it's about time I talk about them, isn't it? Random encounters in Nocturne are infamous for being insanely brutal. Oftentimes, they'll jump you, nuke you from orbit with stuff you can't prepare for, then set you back so far, it's nuts. No, seriously, I got to Shibuya, died, and then had to start all over again from the medical center. Thank goodness I at least saved after the Raito cutscene so I don't have to see that again. And by the way, don't expect them to get any easier until we have a full party. Once we finally get to the save point, we can see what the shops have to offer. There's the Lady of the Fount, who can heal us for a fee, a Jack Frost at a shop that can sell us items, and even some Magatamas, but most importantly, the Cathedral of Shadows, where we can perform Demon Fusion, and it's how we'll be able to obtain the Fiends later. For now, we fuse our own Jack Frost, who has the skill Dark Might, which allows basic attacks to crit during a new Kijutsushi. But I'm going to hold off on any further fusion for now because I don't have the Demonic Compendium. Meaning I can't summon them back once they're fused. I can recruit demons though, but that is a whole can of worms that I'd rather not get into. We head down to a nightclub where it turns out Mitsuru is still alive, and it seems she's not taking the end of the world very well.
The conception? You mean Tokyo was destroyed? What was written in that magazine actually happened? Oh my god, I think I'm gonna be sick.
We beat up a cat girl for information, and then head back to the save point where we meet Hijiri. Oh, yeah, we met Hijiri before the apocalypse, but I totally forgot to mention him. Oops. Who wants to help us find Vegeta. Our plan is to use this device to travel to Ginza, where Vegeta's forces are headquartered, but instead we get stuck in the Facebook metaverse, and have to find a way out. Contrary to popular belief, I actually like the first part of the Amala network. You need to follow the flow of red energy, called Magatsuhi, towards the right destination, while opening doors and fighting honestly not too terrible random encounters. However, we're roadblocked by a Spectre who... Wait, when did I last save?
Thank you, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne.
After getting to a closer save point, we fight the Spectre properly. Spectre is a pretty easy fight. with a full party of demons. Without them though, it is rough. He starts by summoning copies of himself, which actually aren't that bad considering their weak stats and terrible accuracy. However, after 3 turns, they'll fuse into a Mega Spectre whose base power is multiplied by how many Spectres are in the fusion. Because I can't really do enough damage to kill the mini Spectres unless I crit, this results in me getting bodied 3 times in a row. On my 4th attempt though, I try a different strategy. I previously bought 2 Magatamas from the Jack Frost in Shibuya, Iomante and Shiranui. Iomante is what I've been using up until this point, and it's basically the same as Maragare, but it also has immunity to mind-type ailments, so Charm, Sleep, and Panic, which have been extremely beneficial when dealing with random encounters. It also has a higher strength stat, meaning it's great for my basic attack. Shiranui, on the other hand, gives me a weakness to force, or wind attacks, but it also gives me immunity to fire. This is good because it allows me to nullify the Spectre's Agi, but the other bonus to Shiranui is that it has a higher agility stat, as well as giving us more base MP. This allows me to dodge attacks more often, and give me enough MP to cast 4 Tarundas, which lower the Spectre's attack and magic stat. I'll get into the importance of buffs and debuffs later, but for right now, know that this means the Spectre's ultimate attack, Foul Havoc, went from dealing 28 damage to a measly 6, allowing us to survive long enough to get the kill. We escape the Amala network, but accidentally go 1 layer deeper into the Labyrinth of Amala, the optional dungeon for the True Demon ending. There's not much we can do right now, so in the meantime, the Lady in Black gives us a cool Hanukkah thingy, which is a surprise tool that will help us later. We arrive in Ginza, but there's honestly not much to do here right now, other than go to Rag's Jewelry, where we can trade the gems we occasionally collect for very valuable items like B-chains and somas. We also say hi to Nyx at the bar, who...
The moment man devoured the fruit of knowledge, he sealed his fate. Entrusting his future to the cards, man clings to a dim hope. Yes, the Arcana is the means by which all is revealed.
A couple stupid deaths later, and we make it to the Great Underpass of Ginza, where the Mudmen live. We soon meet the Collector Mannequin, who agrees to let us pass to the next area if we can get him a 1,000 yen bill. Said bill is being held back in Ginza in Loki's room, however, it's being guarded by a troll. The troll alternates between ice and physical attacks. The former can be nullified by having Wadatsumi equipped. I also used my knowledge from Spectre to lower his attack all the way to -4, which turned him into even more of a joke, and he falls on my first attempt. Also, keep note of the fact that the troll ran out of MP to cast spells. Nocturne is one of the rare games that actually keep track of a boss's MP as well as HP. I'll take note of this for the future. Before we move on, I go to the DLC zones and earn 50,000 Maka. This is in order to buy all the Magatamas the mannequins have. This includes the Healing Ankh, Fizz-resisting Kamuto, and Force-knowing Hifumi. I also grind up to level 20 so we can learn the counter skill off Maragare. This skill gives us a 50% chance to counter an enemy's physical attack with our own. We also get Secunda and Rakunda from Iomante, Dia from Ankh, and Heatwave from Kamuto. With this and the Hifumi Magatama equipped, we head towards our first Fiend fight. Okay, what the hell is going on?
Buenos dias, fuckboy! I see you are in possession of a candelabrum.
Menorah.
Oh, right. They corrected that. Regardless, the only way you will get mine is off my cold, undead hands!
Welcome to one of the most notorious bosses in all of Megaten, Matador. Even if you just play Persona, you're probably at least familiar with this guy because of all the memes. But what makes Matador so infamous? Well, Matador always starts the fight by casting his unique skill Rekka Pote, which maximizes his accuracy and evasion stat. This results in him being guaranteed to land all of his attacks, while also being nigh unhittable. This fight is designed to teach you the importance of buffs and debuffs, as the counterplay is to either debuff his evasion to +1, or casting Tsukukaja to buff your own accuracy and evasion to match his. The problem is that I won't get access to buffs until much later, so that's not an option. I do have Secunda though, so I debuff into +1, and I'm able to land a lot more attacks than before. But what really makes the difference in this fight is Counter. Counter has a unique property that always makes it 100% accurate. So every time he goes for a physical attack, there's a 50-50 chance that I'll be able to attack back, regardless of his evasion. And this is how I put on most of my damage. In Phase 2, he introduces another unique skill, Andalusia, which can hit me up to 4 times. He can additionally multiply its damage greatly through focus. He also casts Taunt in this phase, which greatly decreases my defense, but also greatly increases my physical attack power. This is a blessing in disguise, as now Counter is hitting him for even more damage. What's more, on my winning attempt, he kept going for Mazan over his basic attack or Andalusia, which is a wasted turn thanks to Hifumi, and with RNG on my side, he falls on my third attempt. The Lady in Black contacts us to say that the Labyrinth of Amala is ready, but no, we are not doing that yet. So instead, we proceed towards Ikebukuro and the home of the Mantra, who are a group of demons terrorizing the mannequins in the sewers. When we get there, we see that Isamu has been taken captive by the Mantra in the most unintentionally funny cutscene in the game.
You gotta help me. We don't have time to waste here. Our teacher, she's...
We get jailed and forced into a trial by combat to prove our innocence. Up first is Orthrus, who is as easy as equipping Shiranui and bringing a disc stun just in case. Next is Yaxini, who is as easy as equipping Hifumi and wailing on her with basic attacks. Finally there's Thor, who... is not going to go down as easy. Thor can use basic attacks, but mostly goes for powerful electric moves. Phase 1 is honestly manageable so long as you Tarunda him and constantly heal. The problem is in Phase 2 where he introduces Zeodyne, the most powerful single target elect spell in the game, and worse, Dekunda, which negates your debuffs and brings him back to neutral. It's mainly because of Dekunda and Zeodyne that I keep getting absolutely wiped. And before you say, just equip the Magatama that nullifies Elect, that's the neat part. You get the first Elect No Magatama after beating Thor!
Thank you, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne.
And the absolute worst part is that if you die to Thor, you have to start all over again from the Isamu cutscene, which is just so much wasted time. After thinking about it, I realized I need one crucial skill for this fight, Warcry, which is learned at level 25 from Hifumi, and essentially acts as 2 Tarundas. It has a heavy MP cost, but it makes sure Thor's attack is debuffed a lot quicker. With this new skill, I go to refight Thor, and my first attempt actually goes really well. Until he uses Dekunda, and I'm unable to Warcry him fast enough before he kills me with Zeodyne. On my next attempt, I decided to play more strategically by adding 2 Secundas to dump his accuracy, and a Rakunda to get a bit more damage in. I didn't do this before because I wasn't sure if a certain amount of debuffs would trigger Dekunda, but Shockingly, this turns out to be the right play, as he's missing a lot more often, and I can deal more damage through counters. There's even one point where he crits me twice. I counter both times, and then his Mazayonga misses. But the best part of this attempt is he didn't go for Dekunda a single time, which is enough for me to get the kill on my 5th attempt. Also, I hope you like Dekunda, as well as his brother Dekaja, as they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Thor gives us the electric no Magatama Narukami, and we prove ourselves worthy to speak to the Mantra's leader, Gozu-Tenno. But before we can do that, we're intercepted by our next fiend. Ooh boy, I was dreading this fight. I will say though, the one thing Raito has over Dante is the fact that most of his skills have him summoning demons that are popular in his games to help him, such as his signature skill, where he summons my favorite demon in all of Megaten, Yoshitsune. And in typical Yoshitsune fashion, he is an absolute crit machine. Now, the funny thing is, my assumption was that Raido would spam this move for the entirety of Phase 1, but, he mainly just shot at me and swung his sword. It was only after I captured footage of his Daikunda move with Mushuru that he started using Yoshitsune more aggressively. It was probably just an RNG thing, but I found it interesting. The only other thing to watch out for is in Phase 2, when he debuffs you with Taunt, and summons a Mokoi to panic you. Keep in mind that Kamudo, my only Fizz-resist Magatama right now, is weak to ailments, so panic has high odds of being inflicted. When that happens, you have a chance to throw away money, or just do nothing for a turn. But fortunately it wears off quickly, and Raido is beaten on my 7th attempt. With Raido temporarily gone, we are free to speak to Gozu-Tenno. But before we do that, I actually decide to do the first part of the Labyrinth of Amala. The labyrinth has 5 floors, called Kalpas, that we need to clear for the TDE. The encounters here though are pretty obnoxious because they hit hard, often go first, and can inflict you with Stone Gaze, which is pretty much an instant kill if it lands. But fortunately, the first Kalpa isn't too bad in terms of layout. All we have to do is navigate a booby-trapped floor in order to flip a switch. After doing this, I actually decide to grind up to level 30. This is for a couple reasons. First is that we are able to obtain Death Stones now. Death Stones are special materials used to fuse the Fiends, meaning I can finally have a party member with me. The second reason for grinding is right through the store. This is a Shady Broker, an NPC found only in the Kalpas that reward you with a special demon if you're high enough level and can pay them. The one in the first Kalpa is a Visaka, with every field skill in the game. This demon will never be leaving my party, as a Stoma is really useful in making random encounters less annoying. But with these things in my possession, I head back to the Cathedral of Shadows and fuse my first Fiend, Matador. I choose to give him both Bright Might and Dark Might to make his basic attack crit on a full and new Kagetsuchi respectively. I also elect to give him Rakukaja to buff our defense and make us extra bulky. We finally meet up with Gozu-Tenno, who lets us know about the Mantra's assault on Vegeta's forces, and we decide to join them. But before that, we challenge our next Fiend, Daisojo. On paper, Daisojo has a pretty threatening moveset. His unique skill Meditation drains a ton of HP and MP, Mahamon and Mamudun have a 30% chance to instantly kill Demi-Fiend, and Preach can inflict random Mind-type ailments. However, Daisojo has one fatal weakness. He is the only Fiend in the game who lacks some sort of Daikaja or Daikunda, meaning one Warcry and 2 Fog Breaths are enough to turn him into an absolute joke. Meditation doesn't do much anymore, his instant kills have a lower chance of hitting, and having Guillemate equipped completely nulls Preach. Additionally, Matador having Dark Might finally gives me additional actions to work with, and we lay the monk to rest on our first attempt. We arrive at the Nihilo's headquarters where the Mantra have taken over. However, Hijiri points out this is likely a ploy by Vegeta to do something. So we go down to the basement, fight an easy mini-boss, then head to the main dungeon. The gimmick here is that you need to rotate these cubes so that these light bridges will activate the way to go. Pretty cool actually, but the main objective is to collect these keys that will unlock the path of Vegeta. However, they're all guarded by mini-bosses. First are 2 encounters with Eligor, who are completely brain dead because they keep using Mudo on Matador, who nulls instant death. Needless to say, they go down in no time. Technically, there are 2 more Eligor fights, but we can actually skip them and head straight to Baire, who isn't much of a problem once his accuracy and attack are debuffed. The next section sees a Kaiwan try to stop us by messing with the puzzle. While annoying, we solve it and come across a room where the Kaiwan is hiding in one of these doors. Which one is completely random, so this part can be either as long or short as the game wants. Fortunately, 3rd time's the charm. Patrick Star and his asexually reproduced offspring are a bit smarter than Eligor and try to land Mudo on Demi-Fiend. Luckily, Demi-Fiend has a hidden 50% resistance to instant kills, which is further increased by Fog Breath. and the Kaiwan go down in no time. After inserting the keys, we make it to Vegeta, who, much like actual Vegeta, loves the sound of his own voice.
Magatsuhi is a sacrificial offering. It is the
Someone in the
power
mantra has a
needed
brain in
to
their
call
head after
forth the
all.
god of creation,
You
and without
come
it,
here.
one
Well,
cannot
this is
fulfill
quite
the
the
purpose of
surprise.
this world. You're that boy from the
They've
hospital.
destroyed
You
the
see,
space.
I'm
Even
amazed
though
you
I
possess
realize
a strong
the
will
core
to
is
life.
tracked me down.
This world every intense power.
With one
soon
have all the
directly
Magatsuhis.
guide you.
Time has come. Activate the nightmare system.
After he's done monologuing, Vegeta sets off a nuke in Ikebukuro, which will drain the mantra of their Magatsuhi. Then he summons his persona to distract us while he gets away. Fun fact, Ose is the first boss in the game who has both Dekaja and Dekunda, but in a typical SMT AI move, he just forgot he has them. And with the power of Dark Might, he goes down on my first try, and we obtained a Dark-type Magatama Anatema? Is that how you say it? Anahema. Let's just go with that. We go back to Ikebukuro to see the fallout, only to run into Mitsuru, who gives us her reason for recreating the world. She wants to create a world that's essentially survival of the fittest and rule of the strong. Since this world has done nothing but beat me up, I choose to side with her for some payback. By the way, I am totally allowed to do this because the TDE takes precedence over all other endings. Anyway, Gozu-Tenno dies, Isamu escapes, and we obtain Gaia, a Fizz-resist Magatama that won't have any useful skills until the endgame, but is still worth it for the high stat increases. On our way out of the Matra HQ, we're intercepted by Nicolas Cage, who's upset that Ghost Rider didn't get a third movie and is taking his anger out on us. Unfortunately, Hellbiker is seen by many as the easiest fiend in the game. He mainly alternates between the physical attack Hellspin, the force attack Hell Exhaust, which also accesses Dekaja even if you know Force, and introduces the fire spell Hellburner in Phase 2. All of these attacks do terrible damage, especially Hellburner, which despite being a heavy fire attack, is only as strong as a Miragi. He does also have Dekunda, but honestly, he does such pathetic damage that debuffs aren't even required, and with that, I'm able to dash next streams on my first attempt. Now that we have 2 more Minoras, I decide it's a good time to do the second Kalpa, and to be honest, I always found this one to be the hardest of the 5. It involves you having to navigate a maze with invisible walls to reach some doors. What makes this place frustrating though is the map doesn't tell you anything, and it's just up to guesswork unless you use a guide. But come on guys, I'm a pro SMT player, and I totally did this effortlessly first try, and did not spend over 30 minutes running around like a headless chicken to find a way out. As part of this dungeon, we obtain the Moon Key, which is used to open these grey doors in the Kalpas. After beating the second Kalpa, I use it to open a door in the first which has a Death Stone behind it. This, combined with 2 others I found in Kalpa 2, means that I can fuse 3 Fiends. I also buy a new A from the Shady Broker in Kalpa 2, who has the skill Prayer, which is the full party healing spell Mediarahan, plus a full status ailment cure, and in a bit, I'll fuse a demon who will benefit greatly from it. Well, that's it for Kalpa 2. I could go to the entrance of the third, but that will spawn the next wave of Fiends, and I want to get to a specific point in the story before I trigger them. Also, while grinding, Matador's Bright Might underwent a skill mutation, and I feel I should explain why that's important. Skill mutations can take 2 forms in Nocturne. It can either turn an existing skill into a better version of itself, such as Bufu becoming Mabufu, or it can change into a new skill based on a tiering system. Not all skills can mutate, but Bright Might is a skill that can, and it turned into Dekaja. Normally this would be kinda bad, but Matador learned Taunt at the same time, which acts as double Rakunda, but also double Tarukaja for an enemy. However, because I now have Dekaja, I can cast Taunt and peel away to Tarukaja, leaving them at just -2 defense. But getting back to the plot, we follow Isamu's tip about a mannequin prophet being held in a former mantra prison. And this place sucks. This is by far my least favorite dungeon. You have to use this special item to go into a mirage where the building is flipped upside down. But the layout of this place is so confusing with winding paths and blocked off hallways. And while a guide helps, the one I was reading is... Switch on the panel to open the gate, turn right, going east, then turn left, going north, turn left, then go left, east, going west, then turn right, then turn down the south ladder, going west, then turn right, east, going north, open the east door with the exit sign, use the Imugi stone. Yeah, not the most clear thing ever, but eventually we make it to Mizuchi, the boss of this area, who I expect to be an easy W. After all, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne would never take advantage of my innate gullibility.
Thank you, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne.
Well then, we hop back in and immediately double Warcry him, so that's under control. Mizuchi is actually a pretty cool boss. He starts off big and strong, but ultimately becomes smaller and weaker the more you damage him. And while he does have Dekunda, the damage after Glacial Blast is manageable enough that putting him back to -4 shouldn't be that much of an issue, and he's vanquished on my second try. We meet the mannequin prophet Futomimi, who tells us that Hijiri is waiting for us back in Ginza. We also run into Isamu, who goes a little crazy and is sucked into the Amala network, never to be seen again. Demi-Fiend also hits level 37, and it's finally time to fuse our next Fiend. Even in normal playthroughs, Daisojo is considered to be the best demon in the entire game. Every other Fiend innately nulls light and dark, as well as status effects. Daisojo repels light and dark, still nullifies nerve type ailments, and drains mind and curse type ailments. Somehow. He also learns prayer at level 39, but you can give this to him early by fusing the new way from Kalpa 2 into him, and Meditations deals a ton of HP and MP to keep him eternally topped off. The other skills I give him are Sorrow Recarm, which revives a dead party member at full HP, Tarukaja, Rakukaja, and Sukukaja to have almost full buff coverage, and Null Force, which I'm hoping to let mutate into something useful. When we make it to Ginza, Hijiri tells us the mannequins are rebuilding their home in Asakusa, and we can get there easily through the Ikebukuro tunnel. Easily meaning almost 30 minutes of recorded footage. Honestly, the tunnel is a lot easier to navigate than I remember it being, but the problem is the dang random encounters. Estoma doesn't work here, as I'm not high enough level yet, and these guys aren't hard either, but they just pop up very, very frequently, and are more of a nuisance than anything. The tunnel is also home to the 3 horny Oni, and I fight one of them on my way out. Kinky is usually the most threatening of the 3 Oni, as he has no weakness and is very resilient against physical attacks. However, Matador having Dark Might negates both problems. He also loves to buff his attack and defense, while debuffing yours and removing any debuffs you apply with Dekunda. However, he goes for Dekunda very infrequently, and we can actually take advantage of this to do a very funny cheese strat. Introducing the Attack Mirror. It's an item that acts as a free Tetrakarn, which repels a physical attack for 1 turn. The power of Tetrakarn also scales based on Tarukaja and Rakunda, meaning the higher the enemy's attack is, and the lower your defense is, the more damage will be reflected off Tetrakarn. And the best part is, if it's an AoE attack, it will get reflected a maximum of 4 times if you have a full party. Using this, I hilariously beat Kinky on my first attempt. Don't worry though, as I don't plan to use this tactic very frequently. We table the other 2 Oni for now and head to Asakusa, where Hijiri tells us to look around. In other words, now is the time to do side quests. We start by heading to the Third Kalpa to awaken our next set of fiends, the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. The gimmick of the first 3 horsemen is that they will summon 2 allies to aid them, while the horsemen themselves throw the most powerful magic of a certain element at you, as well as having some unique skill. In White Rider's case, he'll summon 2 virtues that will debuff your defense, buff their own, and heal with Mediorama. White Rider himself will go for Prominence, a fire move that's as strong as the almighty attack Megidolon, and hits multiple times. And his unique move is God's Bow, which will instantly kill anyone not immune to light. So this fight seems like a nightmare to deal with, right?
No.
The reason why I wanted to hold off on these guys until now is that White Rider will immediately spawn at the terminal in Asakusa, which is also next to the shop that has the Magatamas that drain fire and no light respectively. So I put on Nirvana to be immune to God's Bow, and learn anti-fire from Shiranui to have the damage of prominence. White Rider also has Deikaja, so no buffs, but debuffs make him and his minions unable to hit anything most of the time, and with that, the first horseman falls easily. This is also the point where Daisojo's No Force turned into Drain Force, and frankly, I'd rather just let it be instead of refighting White Rider over and over to try and get a better rank 8 skill. With White Rider gone, I'm free to explore Asakusa and... Wait... Why do I hear boss music? Good. I knew this day would come. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the hardest boss so far. Puzzle Boy. It's an arcade game where you control Pyrojack as he pushes blocks on stages to fill gaps. Very fun and charming, right? Should be totally easy, right? Nope. It starts off easy enough, but as it goes on, it just becomes insane. Like, look at this! How is anyone supposed to figure this out without a guide? And speaking of which, I was following Buffmeister's video to a T, and this piece of shit still took me over 2 hours to beat, because I was constantly starting and stopping the video to make sure I was doing everything right. And by the way, if the layout of this place doesn't drive you crazy, the music sure as heck will. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Dun dun dun. Whoever designed this abomination must never be allowed to make games again, and I wish nothing but pain and suffering on this enragement child for being a blight on mannequin-kind. Well, at least we got a Magatama out of it. With the nightmare behind me, I decide to tackle the remaining tunnel Oni. Fucky and Sucky lack Deikaja or Dekunda, and go down extremely easily. Beating them allows me to visit their boss, Nicolas Cage, whose soul reincarnated from Ghost Rider into his other famous comic book movie role, Spider-Man Noir. The main gimmick of the fight is that Spidey will summon fake copies of himself, and the only way to tell which one is real is to come in during the full Kijutsushi to see which one is casting a shadow. His bread and butter combo is buffing all his stats, then summoning the clones. Notice how none of those moves are attacks. Noir has the ability to attack with Mudun and physical skills, but he mostly just sticks to his gimmick, meaning it's very easy to stunlock him into doing this for most of the fight, all the while he barely does anything to attack you. This becomes even funnier when he runs out of MP, and we laugh in his face to secure the kill. Our reward for beating Noir is the Magatama Murakumo, and I immediately pick up the Null Mind passive from it. This passive will stay with me until the endgame, and will be especially useful in the next Fiend fight. Red Riding Hood summons 2 powers that buff his physical attack. Jason Todd then follows by spamming his unique skill Terror Blade, a physical attack that hits 1 to 3 times and can cause panic. This is why I grabbed the Null Mind passive, and since Murakumo resists physical attacks, the damage is greatly reduced. He also has the strongest electric and force attacks in the game, but he never uses them for some reason, and we're able to get the kill with a focused basic attack that deals almost 1200 damage. Unfortunately, we can't fight Black Rider until we finish the next part of the story, so we head to Asakusa to continue the plot. But before I do, I fuse Nicolas Cage, who's totally cool with me now. and I give him fire and force boost to make his puny Hellburner and Hell Exhaust do more damage. I also feed Daisojo some Mitama flavored steroids to raise his agility to be higher than Matador. Agility determines who goes first in Nocturne, with the user with the highest agility going first. So what I just did ensured Daisojo will always go first, so he can always cast prayer immediately. This will be useful in a lot of future fights. Anyway, Hijiri found the location of Vegeta's Doomsday Weapon, and sends us to a hidden entrance of the Assembly of Nihilo to get there. When we arrive, we see it's a giant obelisk in the center of the ground that's gathering Magatsuhi, and heading inside, we see it's guarded by the three Fate Sisters of Greek mythology, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos. But before fighting them, we need to do some admittedly very fun puzzles that revolve around altering the Kakatsuchi phase. You know, this place has a lot to do with Kakatsuchi. I wonder if that will be important later. We solve the last of these puzzles and prepare to fight the Moire sisters. Each of the three sisters fill up a specific role in the squad. Clotho heals, Lachesis buffs and supports through casting Tetrakarn and Makarakarn, and Atropos casts spells to deal damage. Needless to say, it's imperative that we buff and debuff quickly to take out Clotho to stop her from healing, then take out Lachesis, then Atropos, and our reward for beating them is the Jed Magatama, which grants access to buff skills. We discover Miss Yoshizawa has been acting as the battery for this device, and is thankful for us rescuing her. Then she gets briefly possessed by something, and then leaves without elaborating further. Making it back to Asakusa, Hijiri has some bad news. Somehow Isamu returned, and Hijiri suggests we check up on him in the Amala network. But Isamu is kind of a jerk, and I don't really want to help him yet, so instead we procrastinate by doing some side quests. First is a fight against... well, I'll just play a bit of the cutscene and just watch.
Damn it! I'm tired of everyone dunking on us just because we're mannequins. Well, you know what? We're about to hit him with the longest, strongest, wrongest demon of them all.
Hell yeah, we are! It's payback time, suckers! I don't know the details, but they say this guy is an absolute unit. And if Mara really is that magnificent, then hurry up and whip him out already!
Clearly you two are first-timers. Do you not know that summoning is a consummate act of patience? Besides, Mara is, how should I say, a fickle demon. Were we to rouse him prematurely, he would not be able to come to us at full strength.
Oh, it's hideous!
Slimora is one of the few bosses in this game who have Dio Rahan, a move that fully heals himself, and he's scripted to use it whenever he takes any damage. To let this fight reach its inevitable climax, there are three potential strategies. Either suck all his mana juice until he can't cast it anymore, pound him down in one turn, or the strategy I went with, get him riled up only to deny his advances. For beating Mara, we obtained the Muspel Magatama. Wait, wouldn't it make more sense to get that from Cert? Because Muspel, Muspelheim, you know where Surtur's from in Norse mythology?
No.
Oh, okay then. Demi-Fiend also learns the strong physical attack Divine Shot, and we use it to absolutely eviscerate Black Rider. Holy crap, that damage. Divine Shot is insane. With 3 more Menorah in my possession, I head to the labyrinth to do another Kalpa, but not before doing a special part of the second, the Cursed Corridor. You take a ton of damage from walking on the floor here, and Liftoma doesn't help at all. What's worse is that the encounters are comprised of high-level enemies from the final dungeon, like Nyx.
Attaining one's dream requires a stern will and unfailing determination.
but the reason for doing this is at the end of the corridor, where an Ifrit will give us 250,000 Maka, a huge boost that will help us greatly. Now on to the Third Kalpa, which is split into 2 parts. The first section revolves around having to open stack-gated doors to proceed. One side is based on strength, one on magic, and the final on luck. You end up at the same destination no matter what you pick, so I go through the strength door because that's my highest stat. However, it's only after descending down this ladder that we're faced with the real challenge of the Kalpa. Yup, Raido's back, and he wants to play a game. The second part of this Kalpa involves flipping these switches to open doors to the next floor, with the catch that Raido chases you like he's Nemesis from Resident Evil. And you definitely don't want him to catch you as... yeah. Also, take extra caution on the second floor as he'll reset the puzzle if he catches you. After his game, Raido is in the mood for a rematch, and we reluctantly oblige. Phase 1 is pretty much identical to the first time we fought him, only now I have the power of friendship, as well as buffs and debuffs. Speaking of which, in what is typical now, Raido kind of forgot he had Mushobu to cast a Kunda, so the 3 Rakundas I cast with Hellbiker stick. Because of this, Raido doesn't get far into Phase 2 before he goes down. Raido gives us his menorah, and we have a chat with the Lady in Black. I haven't discussed it yet, but the Lady in Black will give you exposition about certain story events upon completing a Kalpa. And on this story time, she goes into what possessed Kasumi at the obelisk. Its name is Aradia, a being conjured from people from another universe to give them hope, but not actually help them out of their problems. So, in other words, Kasumi summoned an imaginary friend to give her emotional support, which is freaking adorable. But anyway, we've run out of side quests to do, so... I guess we have to save Isamu. The second trip to the Amala network is simply terrible. Specifically these 2 hallways where spirits say the absolute weirdest things and then block your path, forcing you to go back and forth until they graciously allow you to pass. If there's supposed to be a queue here, I never learned it. And the funny thing is, not even the guide likes this part. But at the end of the puzzles, we're once again met by the Spectre, and we're forced to deal with him. This time, the Spectre's strategy is to suck our MP with Mana Drain and then cast Megiddo. Although they never actually cast it because Daisojo never gives them the chance. I do get a bit cocky and almost die, but eventually, the Spectre falls once again. When we see Isamu, he... oh my gosh, what happened to you? Well, Isamu got converted into the master of the Amala network. Somehow. And decides that his reason is that everyone should be allowed their own little bubble and have a world to themselves. And to that I say...
what the fuck is wrong with you?
We leave Isamu to just sit there and head back to Ikebukuro where Vegeta's just chilling. Now, I could try to explain his reason, but it is so convoluted that I just say yes to get him off my back. After that detour, we learn that a rogue mannequin serial killer named Sakahagi is gathering Magatsuhi in Yoyogi Park, and we need to put a stop to him. However, we're roadblocked by the last horseman, Pale Rider. Pale Rider himself isn't actually that bad since we nullify all ailments, and the only thing he can do to us are Mabufudine, the physical damage from Blight, and the almighty attack Pestilence. The main problem here are the Loas he summons. They're the reason I take this fight a bit more seriously, because they like to blow themselves up with Last Resort, and every time one dies, Pale Rider uses Dragon Eye to summon one back, while gaining more actions in the process. They also like to spam Debilitate, which decreases all our stats by 1 stage, and that's just super annoying. So what I do is try to buff up and focus my efforts on Pale Rider. It's a hard fought battle, and I almost die to Last Resort spam, but eventually, the last horseman falls, and Demi-Fiend levels up to 50. From here, I grind him up 2 more levels to 52, so I can finally fuse another Fiend. White Rider is an amazing demon who starts with Prominence and God's Bow, and Fire Boost from Niki Mitama boosts the former by 50%, making it hit even harder. I also gave him a Karn to reflect magic attacks, Makakaja to have access to all buffs, and Fog Breath to free up a skill slot on Demi-Fiend. With my new Fiend in hand, we head to Yoyogi Park and meet Kasumi, who asks us to retrieve the Yahiro no Pepperoni Pizza, because something, look, you had me a pizza. The gimmick of this place is that Sakahagi brainwashed the local fairy population, and we need to avoid certain bridges or pixies will teleport us back to the start of the section. You can climb along these towers to see where the pixies are, but honestly, trial and error is a lot better, and soon enough, we reach Sakahagi. But before we fight him, we must take care of the elephant in the room. For anyone who hasn't played an SMT before, this is Makala, and Makala repels physical attacks. That's kind of his entire thing. So this is the first of many fights to come that force a magic build to beat it. White Rider already proves his value to the team, with Makakaja raising our magic stat, and Prominence dealing so much damage it's insane. And soon enough, the elephant falls.
You're one hell of a monster. I used all that Magatsuhi to summon that demon, and look what happened! Enough of this! Anyone who gets in my way, die!
The fairies decide to let us go, and we deliver the pizza to Kasumi. Aradia then possesses her again, but she talks so fast it kinda terrified me. We then head to the Shibuya side of Yoyogi Park to heal up and fight the penultimate fiend, Mother Harlot. Just like Makala, Mother Harlot repels physical attacks, so magic is once again the way to go. The only thing I'd honestly say to watch out for is her skill Beast Roar, which is an almighty attack which also heals her for 10% of her maximum HP. However, Mother Harlot's downfall is that she isn't as bulky as Giri, and ultimately, you reject her. After beating Mother Harlot, I grind to level 55 to fuse our next fiend. But before I do, I head back to the Third Kalpa to go buy a demon from the Shady Broker. The ones in Kalpa 3 work a bit differently, as there's actually 3 of them here, but they're all locked behind stat doors that correlate towards alignments. Alignments in Nocturne are determined by the amount of colored Magatamas you've mastered. Dark Magatamas are Chaos, bright Magatamas are Law, and less bright ones are Neutral. The specific demon I want is behind the Chaos door, and to unlock it, we need either 2 Chaos Magatamas mastered, or 1 Chaos and 1 Neutral. Mastering Shiranui and Watatsumi will give us just that, and behind the door is just a Preda? This guy might seem unassuming, until you see these skills. Mediarahan, Tetrakarn, Makarakarn, and most importantly, Megidolon, one of the strongest attacks in the game. With this demon, I'm able to fuse Red Rider with Megidolon, as well as Elec, Force, and Ice Boost from Nigimitama, and Glacial Blast from Aramitama. Red Rider is essentially going to be my mage, and will help out greatly with the upcoming Fizz-resisting bosses. After Mitsuru goes a little nuts, we test our new rider on Black Frost, who thinks he's hot stuff. Black Frost is resistant or better to everything in the game except Force, Elec, and Almighty. This is exactly why I fused Red Rider, as Force-boosted Wind Cutters and Megidolon are enough to blow the snowman away. After claiming the power of Satan, we see that Mitsuru isn't the only one going on a power trip, as Hijiri goes mad harnessing the power of Amala. Fortunately, Isamu abducts him before his Joker arc could fully commence. He points us in the direction of an abandoned temple where Hijiri is located, but first we must deal with the Spectre one more time. Spectre's new gimmick is that he's sick of losing and wants to end it all, including us. I do get a bit cocky here and I forget the Spectre's repel force, and I almost die, but I don't, and the Spectre won't be bothering us anymore. The network takes us to the Amala temples, which are comprised of 3 smaller temples that will unlock a bigger one. In terms of order to complete them, I choose to get the hardest one out of the way first. The red temple is simply infuriating. You need to avoid the shadows, or else the gloom hands from Tears of the Kingdom will transport you to the depths. and finding your way out is obnoxious. What's worse is that the second floor forces you into the depths, and it is... ugh. Let's just get to the boss, who is the frost giant Scotty, who does not attack with ice, but force and her unique skill Earthquake, which does ridiculous damage. Luckily, it's telegraphed on the previous turn with 2 Tarukajas, so you can set up with a Tetrakarn to prevent it. If she ever had the chance to use it, because she kept going for her force moves, which Saisojo drains, resulting in her turns being completely shut down. Yeah, this is one of the few cases where an undesirable skill mutation turned into something actually beneficial. And I am so glad it upgraded, because we beat Scotty first try without her ever using Earthquake. The next dungeon on the list is the White Temple, which is yellow for some reason, and it's the trademark Atlas Teleporter Maze. It was actually pretty fun figuring out which doors lead to where, especially on the second floor. The boss here is Albion, who has a pretty cool gimmick. At the start of the fight, Albion will summon 4 minions. If you kill all of them, Albion will summon them back. If Albion goes down, the minions will summon him back. So you must kill Albion and the last of his minions on the same turn. This is surprisingly easier than it sounds because of our ridiculous damage output, and a slide punch from Demi-Fiend seals the deal. Finally, there's the Black Temple, which is as easy as jumping down a hole. And the boss is even easier. Asiel's main gimmick is casting Dragon Eye to suck your MP, then on the following turn, cast Soul Demonetization to drop your HP to 1, then try to finish you with a basic attack. But most of the time he goes for all-target physical moves like Tempest, and I can take advantage of this to just spam Tetrakarn and make him slap himself repeatedly. Doing this renders the boss a complete non-issue, as he keeps walking into Tetrakarn. But eventually I get bored of this and have Matador finish him off with a focused Andalusia. Hijiri gets dunked in the Kool-Aid, and Isamu summons his Noah, who will help him bring about his reason. On our way out, we get some devastating news. Mitsuru and her forces are raiding Asakusa and wiping out the mannequins for their Magatsuki. This is honestly the worst part of the game. Not because it's hard, far from it, but because it's just sad. All game, the mannequins did nothing wrong. They just wanted to be left alone and live their lives. But instead, they're taken advantage of and slaughtered to further the ambition of others. What's even more tragic is that the random encounters in Mifunashiro are partially made up of mannequins, who deal terrible damage and die in one hit. This place is made to make you feel guilty, and it honestly does a really effective job of that. At the bottom of Mifunashiro, we have to make a choice. Side with Mitsuru and fight Futomimi, or side with the mannequins and fight the Archangels of literal fucking heaven. Given what I just explained, I think the choice is obvious. The Archangels lack Kaja and Dekunda, so buffs and debuffs are great. But that's countered by the fact that Raphael likes to spam Tetrakarn. Worse yet is that Raphael can sometimes go for a physical skill, and if he misses, Uriel can go for Beast Eye to guarantee Raphael another action to cast Tetrakarn. However, I get lucky one time when Uriel goes for Beast Eye, and Gabriel wastes her turn casting Maziodyne, which is nullified by Red Rider, and this gives Demi-Fiend the chance to wipe out Raphael with a Divine Shot, and the other 2 Archangels fall next turn to a Megidolon. However, it pains me to tell you this, but no matter what we pick, Futomimi still dies, and Mitsuru evolves into Ball Avatar. I am so sorry, Futomimi. I will make sure the death of your people was not in vain. Speaking of death, on our way to see Vegeta, we encountered the final fiend of the game. However, I don't think we should rush in just yet. What happened to the mannequins was tragic, and I think Demi-Fiend needs some time to process his grief. So on that note, I'll be continuing this run once Demi-Fiend is fully recovered. So until next time, this is Jaffinator, signing off.